Oh shit!
Damn. What? Ah! Are her eyes changing? Oh! So we finally watched The Substance together.
It took us a week to process.
And what a week it's been. Oh! If you didn't know by now, The Substance is a cautionary tale about beauty standards, obsession, and self-destruction. But
I'm dying at the scream in the back.
and self-destruction.
My neighbors are having a party outside and it's very loud.
If you didn't know by now, The Substance is a cautionary tale about beauty standards, obsession, and self-destruction. But it did leave me wondering, where can I get a hit?
I feel like your toxic trait is you would literally take it.
I would. I feel like I would be able
To respect the balance.
I 100% would never.
It would just be for research purposes.
Sure.
This movie has been sweeping award season, capturing the attention of audiences and critics alike. Demi Moore even won her first major acting award, a Golden Globe, thanks to her breathtaking performance in this film. In this video, we'll be exploring what made this movie resonate so deeply with so many of us.
So one point I did want to mention before we get into the deeper aspects of this film is that given The Substance is a satirical body horror film, I thought they absolutely killed it with the prosthetics and the practical effects in this.
So true. It was all a little too real.
Right?
Yeah.
The use of lenses and tight framing really created this visceral and immersive experience that I think really added to the horror elements of this film.
Yeah.
One thing about this film that kind of stumped me was the whole concept of Elizabeth and Sue and their shared consciousness.
Right.
Did they retain the memories of the other when they took over? It was kind of hard to tell because the film doesn't outright tell you or explain it to you.
Yeah.
But after processing it a bit, I thought this feels almost like a metaphor between sobriety and the altered state of being under the influence of a drug, or in this case, Sue. The Substance essentially hands the wheel over to Sue, leaving Elizabeth's sober mind in the backseat. It makes me think of my younger self and when I would go out with friends, drink a little bit too much, and I would act out and be a completely different version of myself that I didn't really recognize, and I'd be questioning the decisions I made. In that sense, it's very relatable when Elizabeth is like getting control of her body and she's like, what the fuck did she do? I think Elizabeth gets addicted to living through Sue, feeling unworthy of living her own life as Elizabeth. When Elizabeth is sober, she craves her next fix, but when she's in that high as Sue, all she cares about is stretching the moment, making the Sue state last as long as possible. Another point this theme of addiction made me think of is our addiction to beauty products or things that make us prettier or younger. And I think it's personally embedded in my code to slow down the process of aging as much as possible.
Honestly, watching it, I was like, okay, I see all her mistakes.
I could avoid that.
I think the reason why the idea of having The Substance is a little tempting to me is because the person I am today, with all the experience and the knowledge, the wisdom that I have, I wish to God I could just give this developed frontal lobe to that 18-year-old version of myself who was, navigating the industry and thinking, naively thinking I could just be an artist and I could be good at acting and that's all I need. I had a really rude awakening. And so I wish that the knowledge I have now, I could impart that with a younger, hotter version of me.
You're still hot. So I think what resonated the most with me about this movie in terms of beauty standards was just the fact that, we see Elizabeth's own self-hatred manifested in Sue. We get from the moment where Sue's kind of taking over, and then there's that whole scene where Sue's being interviewed and she's talking so rudely about Elizabeth. In return, Elizabeth is literally watching Sue and criticizing her. So it's this constant just mirroring of that self-hatred come manifest into real life. And then it takes it a step further when we see Elizabeth and Sue literally battle each other in the most crazy way. It's really fun to see, honestly. I
Yeah.
think they did a really like good job.
At depicting the
Yes,
internal war
yes,
that goes on in all of
exactly.
us women.
Because we all have that inner critic, but I mean, this really did take it a step further. And for me, like my personal relationship with beauty is growing up, I was always commented on my body and like, I guess how skinny I was. And whether people meant that as a compliment or not, I think I always internalized that idea of me being super skinny because they would always, I guess, phrase it in a way that didn't seem like it was a compliment.
Right.
And so I just felt like I always had, I don't know, the body of a 10-year-old boy because I didn't have the hips and I didn't have like the big boobs or anything. And I think I kind of compared myself to other girls my age who were a little more developed.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's kind of just the start of my inner critic, just comparing myself to other women. And now that I'm older and I've gained more weight, now I weighed the most I've ever weighed in my life. But now I'm just, well, damn, I kind of miss having a more chiseled looking face. And I don't know, I kind of miss like certain attributes I had when I was skinnier. And then it's kind of just like this never ending just self-criticism. Well, now you're not super skinny, but now there's this that's wrong with you. And I think maybe a lot of women can relate to this.
Yeah.
Even if you fix one thing, it's like if you don't build that resiliency and that mindset of cultivating self-love and acceptance and like enhancing the beauty that's already there.
Yeah.
It's just this never-ending spiral of looking in the mirror and hating what you see.
It's interesting that you said that when you were younger, you wanted to look this way. And then when you finally look that way, you then start missing what you looked like before. It makes me think about this idea that bodies are constantly trending. And it's so weird.
It's very bizarre that that's a thing.
And that's why it is so important to have a strong sense of self, because I have definitely fallen into that pattern too, where I wanted to be skinny. And when I finally got thinner, all of a sudden people started getting BBLs. And I was like, what? Are you kidding? I starved myself to look like this and the BBLs are in. And then, oh wow, we're back to 90s coked out
heroin chic.
The heroin chic. Yeah. One of the things that I loved about this movie is that she auditioned for herself. You know, who will be the next Elizabeth Sparkle? And to me, what was empowering was that she looked at that and was like,
me, bitch.
who else could be the next Elizabeth Sparkle? Me. So you could see it as, oh my gosh, she's perpetuating a cycle by going back to the place that made her feel bad to begin with. Or you could see it as her deciding to say, F you to all these people. I still got it. I auditioned against all these young girls. This is me technically in a younger body, but it's still me. It's all my experience and knowledge in this body. And that's what makes me really sad too about ageism, because we have all these incredible artists who have all this knowledge and all this experience, and they would be amazing on screen, and they would tell the most impactful stories with everything that they carry within them. But we still rely on these young, beautiful, perfect people to tell those stories.
I feel like there's more inclusivity when it comes to like castings in Hollywood. We're really starting to see a change. Like I'm thinking of Jessica Lange or Jennifer Coolidge. It's interesting how way later in life they kind of blew up in Hollywood. They're not the ideal
Young, hot.
They're still hot, but
they are still super hot.
So we are seeing a change, and I do love women like that who are breaking standards and I don't know, still
kicking,
still going at it.
I'm thinking about Michelle Yeoh and how she was like in so many movies.
So it is really inspiring and cool to see more mature women like that. And they're still so beautiful, but it's like they're also bringing all that experience from their past, because she was still in the industry when she was younger, right?
Yeah, she had movies with Jackie Chan. She was like a Bond girl. We saw her in Wicked. When I first watched Wicked on stage and I pictured a movie, I never would have imagined an Asian Madame Morrible. That never occurred to me.
It's really cool to see, honestly.
Or an Asian director. John Chu directed it.
What?
This movie is exactly why I love and hate living in today's times. I really struggle with the beauty standards and having to chase the next technological trend and be on top of things like that. To be able to consume art that's a commentary on that exact struggle is so cool. We're experiencing it all in real time.
So to me, one of the most striking themes revealed later in the movie is the idea of detaching from the body. This is foreshadowed pretty early on when Elizabeth's Hollywood star is first being installed. At first, it's shiny and new, but as time passes, it cracks and weathers, just like Elizabeth. By the end of the film, Elizabeth literally separates from her disfigured, dying body and from Sue. She disintegrates right there on her star. It's both literal and symbolic. She's finally free from her body, her addictions, and the relentless expectations that come with being Elizabeth. So I think it's just like the ultimate mic drop when she fades away, but her star or her legacy remains.
That's why I love this image so much. It reminds me of this idea of having the wisdom to dip out at the high point of a party. That's when you should actually leave the party, because that's how you'll remember it. And with Elizabeth, she just didn't know when the party was over. She just had this insatiable need to keep it going when she could have totally pivoted in a different direction with her career. You hear about actors like Daniel Day-Lewis, who is a master at his craft, and he retired early in 2017. He actually ended up coming back in 2024, but back then he was saying that he just wanted to take his life in a different direction. He won the Oscars. He did everything that he could with his acting career. He felt like he had exhausted all of his knowledge and resources, that, you know what, maybe it's time for something new in life. But it's that idea of redefining yourself in different stages of your life, instead of clinging onto this machine that'll eventually spit you out. Maybe it's time for someone like Elizabeth, who has so much star power, even at that stage in her life. She could have had the wisdom to take the party elsewhere, maybe.
Yeah.
The tagline of Pump It Up was take care of yourself.
And she did the exact opposite.
Didn't even give herself a pillow.
Final thoughts on The Substance. It is a deep dive into identity, self-destruction, and the constant tug-of-war between the versions of ourselves that we want to be, fear will become, and can't let go of. It's haunting, raw, and incredibly human. A reflection of struggles we all face, even if we don't take it to the extremes that Elizabeth does.
Amen. I would still take The Substance.
She never learns. Even after all that.